Hey, what's up people? It is Reaper here, and today we're coming in with some ways that NetherRealm actually improved the invasions mode in Mortal Kombat 1. So the first improve and probably the biggest is they added a toggle so that you can walk faster when you're in between your fights. I'm going to have some footage of that on screen right now, and if you guys saw the video I made on how Mortal Kombat could improve their invasions mode, this is actually one of the first things I brought up in that video. Before this, the slow speed that was just shown was the default and there was no changing it, and that's how you had to walk through every single map, and it got very tedious. Especially when you needed to backtrack and go and look for things that you might have missed. It just made the whole experience really annoying, and I'm so glad that they improved the walking speed. Another thing which I was asking for in my other video which they added was more variety. Now granted, there's not much of it here, I'd still like to see more, but I'm glad that they're actually doing something. Also, I have not played through this entire season's worth of invasions yet. I think I'm on the 3rd or 4th Mesa right now. So maybe there's more that I haven't seen yet. But from what I have seen, I actually really liked. They took those survive nodes where basically they'll just launch a bunch of projectiles at you and you have to kind of duck and dodge and jump over all of them, right? And they added some more variety and uniqueness to some of those. One of the ones that I found to be very unique was there was a certain survive node where they would send giants at you and you had to flip your stance to kind of match the giants, and I'm not even exactly sure how you were supposed to defeat it. I pretty much just ran into all of them. I kept taking damage, but I ended up beating it, so I don't know if that's what you were supposed to do or if I just suck. But yeah, things like that show me that they care about this mode and they want it to succeed and they want to keep adding new stuff, and I'm here for all of it. Another thing that I'm so glad that they changed was the ambush feature. Basically, it works like a wild Pokemon encounter. You're walking about and then your game gets interrupted and you get jumped. Now, in the first season of Invasions, this would happen quite often. I would say at least once every 10 nodes. But now it feels few and far between, so that when it actually does happen, it's actually more of a shock, and it's actually kind of fun now. I like what they've done with it. Having it be at the level that it is now, it actually adds a lot of surprise factor when you encounter one, and like I said, it just makes it a lot more fun. Before, it was just super annoying and one of those things that it's like, oh, I have to go deal with this and it's interrupting my gameplay and it's something tedious that I have to do. Now it's like, wow, that actually kind of threw me a bit. Let me handle this real quick and then I'll go back to what I was doing. But since it happens so infrequently now, it doesn't feel like a problem or a chore anymore. Another thing they changed, which I really like, is they made it so that talismans can only be naturally acquired through chests. This makes it so that they're more rare and you spend less time in the menus discarding old talismans that you don't really want or aren't going to use. You can still craft your own and upgrade your own and all that, but if you want to find one naturally, it has to be through a chest. I've also heard that they're a lot more unique now and that they have a lot more variety and they're actually more useful. I wouldn't know because I still don't use the talismans. I don't find a need for them, and I'll get into all that later in the video, but yeah. Another big thing that I really like, and it was something that I know I specifically talked about in my old video, was that armor was just too much and too annoying. Too many enemies had it, and all it really did was slow down gameplay. Now they've changed it so that the only enemies that you're going to fight that will have armor are bosses, which I actually really like, because it makes them a little more difficult and it also makes them a little more unique. You know you're fighting a boss when they have armor and everybody else doesn't. One of the main complaints I guess I didn't even realize I had until now was that the bosses never really felt like bosses before. It just felt like a longer fight. You know, they had like more than one health bar. Sometimes they'd throw projectiles at you in between your rounds, and they still do that. But now they're the only ones that have armor, so it really makes them feel unique and like you're fighting something different than the usual. It also makes it so that you're not spending a lot of extra time dealing with attacks that should have landed when really all they have armor on just like a normal fight that you're going to get through anyways. So yeah, I think that was a much needed change and I'm very glad that they implemented that. Another thing that I really like is someone who often gets lost when you're in the middle of a mesa, especially if you turn it off and come back like a few days later, like you're going to be confused as to where you were and what you've done, right? Now they've added it so that whenever you complete a fight, you'll get a little tab that says completed, which is something so small yet so helpful. Because there's a lot of parts where you're kind of winding around and it feels like a maze sometimes and you're not sure, and there's parts where the path splits off in 2 directions, so you might come back around to where you originally were, and now there's a handy little completed tab so that you don't backtrack and do anything that you've done before. So yeah, there was a lot changed with the invasions mode, but those are just some of the things that I noticed to be very drastic and some of the things that I really liked, and a lot of them were things that I asked for in my video. But with that being said, there are a lot of things that I still think that they can improve upon for Invasions, and I'm just going to rehash some of the things I brought up in my old video. The first of that being a map. I still can't believe we don't have a map. It would be so helpful if we had a map. Can I please just get one? That way, if there's specific things like a clue where I'm kind of confused and don't know how to solve it, I can watch a YouTube video and then come back to it later and I'll know exactly where it is. I also think it would be a great feature if on this map you could teleport to any node that you've previously completed. I know they have a teleport feature with the shop and the forge, but I'm not exactly a big fan of how that works a lot of times. You don't even get to pick which shop and which forge you go to, and unless they change it in this update and I didn't happen to notice, I'm pretty sure it still might just be random. I know it was before, so benefit of the doubt, maybe they changed that to your last visited shop or your last visited forge, which would be a lot more helpful than it was. But still, at the end of the day, I don't think those should be the only 2 teleport points. In my opinion, as long as you've completed a node, I think you should be able to teleport back to it. It would save a lot of time. Even with the new walking speed, some of these maps can get quite big, so I don't want to backtrack through 20 nodes just to get the one thing that I might have missed. I'd much prefer just to teleport right next to it, and then I can go back and do it. And then all that stuff I brought up about earlier about getting lost within these things would be a lot easier not to get lost if I had a map showing me where everything was. And I guess someone could make the argument that if you had a map, then you'd be able to find the treasure chests, but let's be honest, they're not hard to find anyways. As long as you're completing everything, you'll find them. Another thing I'd really like to see is some character-specific mesas. I kind of touched about how I would like this to be done in my old video, but basically what I said is I'd like it to be similar to the Injustice 2 multiverse system, where a lot of the worlds that would pop up would be character-specific, and you could kind of grind through them. It would probably be that you could only use the character that the mesa is about, which I think is cool, and then you can unlock more gear for that specific character. They can maybe even do something along the lines of the legendary multiverse from Injustice 2, which was pretty much the same concept, except they didn't rotate, they were just permanent, but they were like really hard to complete, but if you did complete them, you get some really good gear. Now in this game, since gear doesn't really have stat bonuses like it did in Injustice 2, I don't think they should make it half as difficult, or I don't think anyone will want to do it. But that being said, they can definitely make it more challenging than it is now in the normal Invasions mode, and I think people would actually really like that. And it kind of brings me into my next point, that I still think there should be a difficulty setting for this mode. They could do that just like any other mode, where when you click play on Invasions, it asks you what difficulty you want, and you scroll between easy, normal, hard, you know, pretty standard stuff. Or they can do it like I mentioned before and have different mesas be different difficulties, especially if they ever do end up adding the character-specific ones. Those ones would probably be a bit harder. But yeah, stuff like that I feel would add a lot of fun to this mode, and also add some cool gear that you can grind out and not have to pay. And the last point I wanted to touch on was, like I mentioned in my old video, again, just increase the usability of these talismans, consumables, and relics. Now, I won't lie, they did add a relic this time around that is actually quite useful. I use it quite a bit. I forgot the name of it, but basically it gets rid of all your meter, so you can never use meter burn moves. However, it makes all of your special moves do double damage all the time. This is something that I run because I find that I just sweep through the competition really quick. But yeah, most of the other relics that I find are just too detrimental for me to want to use. And even this one's quite detrimental. Not having that meter burn option is quite annoying sometimes. But at the same time, the double damage on special moves kind of makes it a little bit OP in my opinion, so I still use it. I just think it's bad in terms of practice, because now I'm practicing using no meter for all my characters, when in reality, if I'm in an online match, I'm gonna want to be using meter. But as for consumables and talismans, I literally never use them. I don't feel a need to, because I find that the game is just easy enough as is, to where I don't feel an urge to need a boost. And again, I think this problem could be very easily alleviated if they just added a difficulty setting. But yeah, guys, overall, I really like most of the changes that they've made. It makes the overall experience a lot more enjoyable. Though one thing I am ticked that they changed is you're no longer able to use the XP grind method. If you guys didn't know about this, in Season 1 of Invasions, you could go and find a level 1 endurance fight, and the endurance fights are basically 3 weak enemies, and when you kill one, another one spawns, but it's kind of equal to one fight. You have 3 enemies, but they're all at about 1/3 of the health, so it makes getting through it about as equal length as it is to a normal fight. The catch was, if you killed each of these enemies without taking a hit, you would get 3 flawless victories at once. And if you did this after you hit like the max Invasions level, which was level 30, you could cut through them like butter, and then you'd get pretty much 3 guaranteed complete flawless victories all in a row, and you could just keep doing this over and over again and keep grinding XP. They've now changed it so that you don't actually get that anymore. If you're a level 30 fighting a level 1 endurance enemy, you're gonna get barely any XP, even if you do flawless victory though. I think this change was just super unnecessary, especially with the XP system being the way that it is. It's really hard to level up your characters and your cameos, so cutting off people's lifeline and finding a reliable way to actually get through these levels somewhat quick is pretty annoying. It's part of a larger XP problem that I might just dedicate a whole video to. I'm not really sure. All I know is that the XP system is flawed, and cutting off people's ability to grind the game in an efficient way is quite annoying. But with that being said, I am going to end the video here. If you guys enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, as it truly does help my channel grow. If you want to see more from me in the future, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you guys are always alerted whenever I upload more. And let me know what you guys think. Are you guys happy about these changes that came to Invasions? Is it going to cause some of you who stopped playing to start playing again? Let me know all of your opinions in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.